Welcome to another gripping tale from my own experiences. Today, I delve into the eerie and unsettling story of a mental hospital where mysterious butterflies begin to appear in the patient's rooms. Each butterfly brings with it haunting visions of the patient's dark past. This story is a chilling exploration of fear, memory, and the supernatural. Buckle up for a journey into the unknown as I recount these terrifying. In the dimly lit corridors of a mental hospital, where the walls seem to close in with every passing hour, an unsettling phenomenon began to unfold. It all started with the appearance of butterflies, an unexpected and disturbing intrusion into the sterile, controlled environment of the institution. These were not ordinary butterflies. They were spectral, their wings shimmering with an ethereal glow that seemed almost too otherworldly to be real. My story begins with the arrival of these butterflies, which quickly became a source of dread among the patients. Each time a butterfly fluttered into a room, the atmosphere would shift palpably, and the air would grow heavy with an unseen tension. Patients who had once been quiet and withdrawn began to exhibit alarming changes. Their behavior became erratic, and their eyes would dart around as if searching for something unseen. One patient, a woman named Emily, was the first to report a sighting. Emily had a history of trauma, having lost her family in a tragic accident. When the butterflies appeared in her room, she began to relive that horrific night in a relentless loop. Her screams echoed through the halls, and her terror was palpable. It was as if the butterflies were feeding on her anguish, drawing out the darkest memories she had buried deep within herself. Another patient, Michael, had once been a soldier, and the butterflies brought back visions of war and violence that he had tried to forget. His nights were consumed by scenes of battle and bloodshed, and he would wake in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, screaming for relief from the horrors that seemed all too real. The hospital staff, initially skeptical, soon became alarmed as the phenomenon spread. Doctors and nurses, who had once been accustomed to the usual troubles of their patients, now found themselves dealing with an unprecedented situation. They tried to dismiss it as a collective hallucination or a psychological reaction to the environment, but the intensity of the patients' experiences made it clear that something far more sinister was at play. I decided to investigate further. Driven by a sense of dread and curiosity, I began to document the occurrences and interview the patients. What I discovered was a pattern that seemed almost deliberate. The butterflies appeared only in rooms with patients who had particularly traumatic pasts. It was as if these ethereal creatures had a purpose to expose the buried horrors that each patient had tried to leave behind. My own encounters with the butterflies were no less disturbing. As I delved deeper into the mystery, I began to see them myself. They would flit past my vision, their presence unsettling and inexplicable. The visions they triggered were fragmented but intensely frightening, giving me a glimpse into the anguish of those around me. It was as if the butterflies were drawing me into the collective trauma of the patients, making me a part of their suffering. As time passed, the hospital descended into chaos. The once controlled environment became a breeding ground for fear and paranoia. The staff, overwhelmed by the increasing intensity of the patients' experiences, struggled to maintain order. The line between reality and delusion blurred, and the hospital seemed to be consumed by a malevolent force that fed on the fear of its inhabitants. In the end, the butterflies disappeared as mysteriously as they had arrived. Their absence left a void filled with unanswered questions and lingering terror. The patients who had been tormented by their presence were left to grapple with their unresolved fears, and the hospital staff were left to confront the haunting memories of the chaos that had unfolded. Determined to find closure, I reached out to former staff members and historians who had knowledge of the hospital's past. Through their accounts, I learned that the institution had once been involved in unethical experiments and harsh treatments. The ghosts of these cruel practices seemed to have lingered, feeding off the suffering of the patients and manifesting as the spectral butterflies. In a final act of desperation, I organized a small memorial for the patients and staff who had been affected by the ordeal. It was a somber gathering, filled with reflection and a shared desire to confront the darkness that had plagued the hospital. The ceremony served as a cathartic release for many, providing a sense of closure and a way to honor the pain that had been so cruelly exploited. As the months went by, the hospital slowly began to recover. The remaining patients received the care and support they needed, and efforts were made to address the institution's troubled history. The spectral butterflies, it seemed, had served as a harrowing reminder of the importance of empathy, healing, and the need to confront the shadows of the past. Though the butterflies were gone, their impact on my life and the lives of those around me remained profound. The experiences had taught me about the fragility of the human psyche and the haunting power of unresolved trauma. I had come to understand that the darkness we carry within us can manifest in the most unexpected ways, and that true healing requires us to face our deepest fears. In the end, the hospital and the patients who had been caught in its web began to find their way back to the light. The spectral butterflies had vanished, but their legacy endured as a stark reminder of the need for compassion and understanding in the face of unimaginable suffering.